Okay, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to welcome everybody to another of a hopefully soon-to-end series of Comprehensive Plan Task Force meetings for the town of Harpswell. My name is Al LeGros. I'm the chair, and I'd like to invite everybody to introduce themselves before we start, while Mary Ann is,
Oh, I'm sorry, you want me to start?
yeah, go ahead. Introduce yourself.
Mary Ann Naif.
Amy Heibel.
Matt Gilly.
Ryan Hurst.
Phil Taylor.
George Prince. Okay, we have a few people absent today, but we do have a quorum, just in case we have to do anything of a business nature. Okay. The main purpose of this meeting is to take a look at what we've heard since we began our last series of meetings on June 24th in Cundy's Harbor, ending with the public hearing on August 6th, to make sure that everybody is in agreement with the changes, final changes that we are proposing to go into this plan, so that we can get this thing out in a final draft, get it out to the public, and give the public a good 2 months before they have to vote on it on November 4th. That vote will be a secret ballot, and it's important for everybody to at least be on record as saying, this is as good as we can make it at this point in time, and let the chips fall where they may, if you will, on November 4th. Having said that, we have three series of minutes, June 24th, July 8th, and July 22nd, that we approved tentatively at the last meeting that we had. I took the minutes and I did more pencil whipping than I thought I would. And so I want to give the opportunity to the task force, if they object to any changes that were made, and finally approve the minutes from June 24th, July 8th, and July 22nd. Are there any comments, objections, whatever? Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
All right, moved and seconded, all in favor? Okay. So those minutes can be posted? All right. Okay, August 6th, we had our public hearing, and it was a good discussion, but ultimately it fell down into the issues that we've been wrestling with for many months now. And let me just start by saying, here's a brief summary of what I heard. There was an acknowledgement that water in the town is a very important issue. We've addressed that in the plan, and we've given a lot of attention to that. And at this point, I might add that Mary Ann Naif and the Resilience and Sustainability Committee has asked us to endorse their request for grant money to study wells in Harpswell. Why don't you say a few words about it at this point in time?
Sure. I should look at what I'm saying in the grant, but anyhow, we're looking for a GOPIF grant in the amount of $72,000, of which is going to be two parts. The part we're most interested here is starting a groundwater survey study. It's going to begin with a really good information program beforehand, before it comes out. We want to start talking, like in the next few months, start talking about why we're going to do this study. And when we're talking about the study, basically, we're going to survey the community and have them tell us what they know about their wells, ask them if they have any issues, and ask them to let us know what they are. Based on what we find out would then give us the next step if we wanted to do any type of testing or anything like that. Interestingly, we did this same type of test in 2001 with Wright Pierce, and also in 1998, I think it was. 82. And what we were just talking about at our meeting, the consistency of the same type of information that we're trying to find. So we're going for this grant. We feel that even if we don't get it, the Conservation Commission can start working towards talking with the public, doing programs about why we need it, getting them to really, we've heard that everybody's concerned, and how they can help us add to the data that we need to make any determinations. And then once we have that, we will be able to marry it to the data we already have, and then take it from there. And Margaret, I know, I'm not sure I quite put the same spin on it that we've been working on. So that's going to go in on Friday. We will hear the end of the year. We are in a position, though, to start working on this the beginning of next year. We don't need all of the grant money to start the education process.
Okay, great, thank you.
So Mary Ann, this collecting of information on wells?
Yeah.
Is that something that the grant would cover, or something that would be done sort of in-house?
It's going to be in two parts. The collection of information, when I say collecting of data, it's going to be a survey that goes out to people for them to give us information. That we can do in-house. But then later, once we have that information and want to delve down a little further, and we're also going to use a hydrology consultant to take the data that we're getting now, incorporate it with the data we've gotten sooner or earlier. It will give us some history. We can say we did this in 1984, this is what we had, this is what we had in 2000, and this is what we have now. And that's where she will come in. So to answer your question, we can start now in-house, and but then we will have the funds to go to the next step once. We're also going to work with her, ideally, to set up the questions and make sure we're asking the right questions that get us the information we're looking for.
Yeah, go ahead.
Can I follow up on your question? Because I
Yeah.
didn't feel like I understood the answer very well. Are you going to send the survey out to every single household? And what exactly will the testing be?
We are going to follow very closely the Wright Pierce survey that was done in 2001, that went out. The survey itself, I'm going to call it a questionnaire, went out in a mass mailing to the community, asking them to respond. And it basically is going to ask about if they, ask them about their well, ask them about the depth of their well, the information that they have that's, should be on the state level, basically, that, that's there. We are also going to ask them if they have any problems, that they'd like to share with us. The way it was presented, I had pulled it out. I thought the way the town did it in 1980 did everything it could to encourage people to be part of the process. And it was specific about, you could fill this out and send it in. You did not have to sign your name if you didn't want to. At some point, if there are some carrots that we come up with to do some kind of actual testing that costs money, yes, you then would have to, if you wanted to be part of the program, you would have to, identify it. All the data is going to be tied to the map and lot number, just like everything else is in town.
You, Mary Ann, shoot.
Senior moment?
Oh, what's that?
A senior moment.
That's it, that was it. Do you know what percentage of people, of the residents returned their surveys when they were mailed out?
We know that they got 1,000 returns when they sent out the survey in 2001.
2001.
I don't know how many properties were developed at that point.
Yeah.
We know now we have 4,400 properties in town that are developed, whether they're businesses or residences. So we know ideally, or not ideally, but there should be 4,400 wells in town. We now have a record of 1,000,
Yeah.
so.
Okay, thank you. The reason I brought that up is that, first of all, water has been mentioned a number of times in the recent meetings we've had in the comprehensive plan. It's a part of the plan. It's recognized as a concern, consideration that we have to look forward to in the future, and it could impact the way the town develops in the future. So I prepared a short endorsement of their request for funding on behalf of the task force. I don't have it in front of me, but,
I think I do.
okay, so it's basically saying that we're doing a comprehensive plan, the water resources in the town are an important part of the plan, and recognize the potential impact on future planning, and so we would support the effort of the Resiliency and Sustainability Committee to gather, or to
To secure
get
funding,
access to.
you are supporting the fact that we're going for a
Right,
grant.
grant funding. So that's basically what it says. The words were not 100% solidified on yet, but we'll get that done shortly. We need to get done by Thursday, so.
Yeah, and actually, it would be great water has been a big issue. I don't know if you've realized it for the last 4 years. But it would be, and it's in the comprehensive plan, and it's very interesting. As I looked at the implementation plan, Margaret brought this up to me, they basically are doing what we're going to do. Collect, update, maintain data on current wells, and that's kind of where we're starting. And then it goes on to do the same thing with septic, and then it goes to develop a groundwater study to update the additional groundwater capacity study. So we're basically updating what we've done in the past with the idea, you can get a lot of valuable information about what's the same and what's different as we go forward. And at the time they did it in 2001, there was talk about a moratorium on a campground, which I believe was probably the one at Bond Point. And that was kind of the impetus about the concern. And there was also a fair amount of groundwater contamination from road salt on wells near the road, as well as petroleum leakage. So those were the issues that were brought out in 2000. And they were dealt with separate studies later to test for those issues. So we didn't find this out until like 2 days ago, but I realize we do this every 20 years or so. And the great thing is, though, we have data to go from before, and we can now see what's changed. If nothing else, it'll go give us historical data of what was there and what we have now.
Okay, so let me just make sure folks here don't have any objection to me putting a couple paragraphs together and saying we support this effort. Makes sense? Yeah, it fits in with the comprehensive plan for sure.
That's so good, and the committee would appreciate it if this subcommittee, this task force could support this.
Yep.
And we vote on it to support it, and then I will include that letter of support with the grant application.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. All right, moving on. We had a public hearing on August 6th. And as I said before, we've had several other meetings throughout the town, starting June 24th in Cundy's Harbor, going to Orr's Island on July 8th, July 22nd at Kellogg Church, and we've got a number of different inputs from people, but in the main, they all sort of converge on housing, how we represent the Affordable Housing Working Group report, Housing for Harpswell, and whether what we've done in the report relative to those things is sufficient to make the point that we recognize housing is an issue, and we're trying to look for ways to resolve it as best we can as a town, recognizing that Harpswell is different from Brunswick, is different from, you name the place. We have our own unique constraints that have to be dealt with. So what I want to do now is focus on, number one, we have 3 mentions of the Affordable Housing Working Group report in the plan. One is in the executive summary, the second is in the housing section of the report, and the third is in part 2 of the report as a referenced document along with other town plans and studies that we've relied on and looked at as part of this plan. Question number 1, do you folks think that that's enough, not enough, or do we have to embellish what we've written in some way to make it resonate in a different fashion? Let me just kind of go through. First of all, in the executive summary, the way it reads right now, in 2022, the town established an affordable housing working group to study and address this issue, the housing issue. The full report of the Affordable Housing Working Group, Housing for Harpswell, can be found on the town's website. And here, it's a hyperlink. And that's all we say in the executive summary. What we took out was specific reference to proposals that were made in the report. Specifically, Housing for Harpswell sets out a series of proposals to increase the opportunities for expanding the supply of attainable housing that is consistent with the scale and character of Harpswell. The proposals address the use of existing housing as well as proposals to facilitate the construction of smaller single-family homes, duplexes, and townhouses, should conditions be met, such as adequate water and septic and vegetative buffering. That last part we took out of the report because we didn't want to overemphasize or give the impression that our comprehensive plan was overemphasizing and making housing the number one concern or issue in the town. And so that's the first reference. The second reference in the housing section, which I think Sean Rule, during the public hearing, said, I think, you know, if any place you want to maybe beef up the reference to this, the way it reads right now, what we've said is the town recognizes the need for attainable housing in Harpswell and is committed to exploring options to create housing that will attract and retain people, among whom are young families, waterfront workers, firefighters, teachers, and tradespeople. In addition, the town will actively seek opportunities to enable older adults to stay in the community. Concerns regarding the housing situation prompted the Select Board to appoint an affordable housing working group to gather data and recommend possible solutions. It stops there. What we eliminated was the following. After 2 years of effort, the Affordable Housing Working Group issued its report, Housing for Harpswell, which was formally accepted by the Select Board in 2024. The report can be found on the town website in the Housing Committee section and serves as a starting point for a new Housing Committee that was recently established to continue work on this important issue. So, some people were concerned that the portions that we took out were too much, too aggressive. Other people on the other side of the spectrum say, well, you know, it's a report that the Select Board accepted. Let's not make it the number one priority and focus, because when you look through our report, you don't really see reference to a lot of other town reports, like the Mitchell Fair report or the open space report and so on. This is the one report that's really referenced in a number of different places, and I think the reason is, first of all, it's a hot button issue all over. Secondly, it was going on concurrently with our development of this report. And third, the Select Board basically told the Affordable Housing Working Group to work with the comprehensive plan to make sure it was a part of the plan. So I want to open it up at this point to discussion. I want people to let me know what they think.
I think there was a gentleman, he was at our Oars Island meeting, and he got up and he gave us some critiques, and he was at the public hearing. I don't remember his name, I'd have to look off. He had a black shirt on, is all I remember at the public hearing.
Jim Longren?
No, he worked for the state,
Oh, yeah,
that
okay.
gentleman. And he made the comment at the public hearing that this is exactly what the state wants to see in reference to the comprehensive plan that we had at that point. I think that's a telling sign that we've done a good job, and this is something that even if the voters pass it, it still has to be accepted by the state. And I think we're at a point where we didn't get too much critique at the public hearing in comparison to the 3 meetings prior. And that gentleman seemed to think this was also at a point that the state would accept it. Why change it anymore if it's at that point?
Comments?
I just want to say, at our last task force meeting, the task force instructed people, Ms. Inglis, Al, myself, who else? Somebody?
Margaret.
Margaret, to make the changes that were made. And they said, just do it and we'll accept it. And so that's what we did. And we did it with what we thought was the task force's directive, and we fulfilled that directive. And so I hope we're not going to come back now and undo what the task force told us to do as a sort of, amendment subcommittee.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that, from our perspective, that there's enough in here
Yeah.
that will allow this to be passed, while at the same time acknowledging that this effort was a valuable effort, and there are lots of things that, possibilities that were referenced in that report. And, oh, by the way, the Housing Committee was formed to kind of push forward and do what they have to do to bring this forward to the town in the future. Yes, ma'am. Name, serial number, date of birth.
I'm sorry.
Verification of
Sure, I'd love to take it over here. Just love it. Hi, Courtney Snellings. Was on the Affordable Housing Working Group. Is this thing working? You just turned it on. Boy, that was my plan all along. No. Anyway, I was on the working group. I'm now on the Housing Committee. We had a meeting last night, and I'm partly here to speak for the group because we did have some concerns. We're feeling somewhat erased with this part being taken out that Al had just read. And I have a question for you guys. I'm sorry, this is weird. It almost feels like you think we're a threat. You don't want to acknowledge us. And the fact that the mention of the housing committee was taken out, I mean, I think that's pretty important that it was a starting for the housing committee. There was somebody who spoke at the public hearing saying, I think too many references have been taken out. I know we've got several sides of the coin here. I also know all of us are here because we love our community. That is why we are all doing this work. That's why you guys are doing it. That's why we're doing it. People don't always agree on the way to do that, but I don't understand why it's so important to remove so many references like we didn't exist. I mean, do you feel we're some sort of a threat? That's my question.
Go ahead.
I think the answer is, I mean, speaking for myself, but I think the answer is no, we don't. But we have heard a lot of complaints about housing. And yeah, I guess about the housing committee. But, you know, we're trying to word this, I think, so that it gets passed. And we've had, you know, several people, and it's hard to know kind of what percentage of the residents they represent, but there certainly have been people who have spoken forcefully about being worried about the housing committee, and I guess our support for that. I would just say, you know, Courtney, no, I'm certainly not. I think it's too bad that we got to the point where we removed all those references. Yet on the other hand, we have to think about getting this whole kit and caboodle passed.
Well, just a couple of comments. When you say we removed references, there were a couple of places where we did pull them out. But the Affordable Housing Working Group and its report is still in the comprehensive plan. As I said before, it's in the executive summary, it's in the housing section, and it's in part 2 of the reference reports that we considered important to pulling this report together. So it's not, I would a little bit beg to differ with the issue that's being erased. It's not been erased. The question was, how do we make it appear to be a more balanced part of the report? We're trying to appease groups on both sides, folks that think housing is the #1 issue in the town, folks that think, no, housing is not the #1 issue. Maybe it's water, maybe it's something else. But with respect to housing, in my mind, what it boils down to is it's a valid report. It's been recognized in the comprehensive plan, but it's not as if the comprehensive plan supports everything in the report. The same thing can be said about Mitchell Field. Mitchell Field, and I've said this to a number of folks, Mitchell Field report in 2019, maybe, still has a conceptual area for affordable housing on Mitchell Field. The town approved that report. Should we X that out because the current view is that people don't want housing there? There's supposed to be another report that's gonna come out. It hasn't started yet. We don't know what it's gonna say or how it's gonna be stated. But you start to get into these areas where if you wanna recognize something like that, that's been town-approved, and then you have another report that has not been voted on by the town, we don't necessarily acknowledge or accept everything in all of these reports. We have used these reports as starting points and ways to consider and look at problems and issues in the town. Not that everything verbatim is going to be accepted. So I think we have to look at this sort of in a logical way. I just want to make sure that when we go forward with these final edits, and oh, by the way, we have to do this ASAP because we need to get hard copies of this final report out. When's the date, Margaret? Nobody knows now? I mean, it's sooner rather than later. I mean, I've heard like 2 months before public hearing, which would mean, September 4th. That these things need to be out in hard copy. So we have to get this to the press. We have to make copies like this available for the libraries and people in the town so they come up and look at it and feel comfortable that what they're going to vote on November 4th is the best shot that we have. So this is not something that we can sit on and cogitate on forever. I guess, and I would recognize the fact that, like everything else in this report, these are suggestions, references, and the real hard work is going to be done at the committee level, whether it's housing, whether it's planning, whether it's resiliency, you name it. The nuts and bolts of what's going to happen in the future of Harpswell for the next 10 or 15 years is going to be hammered out in those committees by the town. All we're doing is laying a framework and saying, hey, here are some key issues. If you folks have this vision of the town, which we all agreed on, here are the key issues, here are the key areas that we think need to be worked on. The manner in which that proceeds is really beyond the scope of this task force. I mean, we're just sort of laying out a general document that will form the basis of future actions. I acknowledge that to the extent possible, the town needs to try to, in its future actions, not comply with, but at least be consistent with the comprehensive plan. That's why, in my opinion, the comprehensive plan can't be terribly prescriptive or precise in a sense, because by doing that, you put yourself in a box. I mean, you're saying if these are the solutions that have to happen, then some of these committees and some of the conversations that have to take place get shut down. So this has to be a generalized document. It's not meant to disparage or erase any of the efforts that have been done. They're all important. And, speaking personally, I think the Housing for Harpswell report was a good report. It was, I thought it was well-written. It was done appropriately with leaning out to the town and so on. But the real nuts and bolts are really going to take place in the Housing Committee, I think, and what they bring forward to the town. This comprehensive plan, I think, needs to acknowledge the report without getting into a lot of detail about everything in the report. And it's just sort of, I don't know, that's my opinion. I don't want to monopolize the conversation. But we need to get this thing done to the printer so that everybody looks at it and thumbs up or thumbs down on November 4th. And that's kind of our perspective right here.
You know, I have a copy where the things are read out, and then there, on 56, there's this, is it your intention or hope that this stays in this paragraph?
Well, it's, the question is, we eliminated, after 2 years of effort, the Affordable Housing Working Group issue report and so on. We eliminated that. The question is, did we take out too much? Is it right? Is it about right? Or do we have to jigger this around a little bit more? I mean, it was clear to me at the public hearing that Sean Rule, who's the chair of the Housing Committee, thought that we took out too much. But that's kind of where the rubber meets the road. I think of all places, this is the one area, because it's the housing section of the report. Did we eliminate too much? Should we put in something else? Or should we put this back in? I mean, that's kind of the bottom line as far as I'm concerned, because something in the executive summary and something in the part 2 of the plan, that's fine, but it really, after 2 years of effort, the Affordable Housing Work issued its report, Housing for Harpswell, which was formally accepted by the Select Board in 2024. We took that out. Did we add that back in? The report can be found on the town website in the Housing Committee section and serves as a starting point for a new Housing Committee that was recently established to continue. I mean, I'm ambivalent. I mean, I'm not sure that would be considered a major change to the plan. Yes, sir.
I'm Steve Nicholas, I'm married to Barbara Nicholas.
Hold on just a second, Mary Ann's gonna get you
Thank you. I'm Steve Nicholas, Harpswell Neck.
Step up to it.
I
Don't
don't
be
want
shy.
to blast, I don't want to blast everybody.
Yeah.
Okay, married to Barbara Angeles, whom you all know. I just want to say something very briefly about this. When I first read the originally proposed comprehensive plan, and it's what I felt was a very strong endorsement of the items contained in the Affordable Housing Working Group's plan, I was prepared to vote against the comprehensive plan. The Affordable Housing Working Group report has a lot of good stuff in it, but it has some things that I felt went too far. Some things that proposed changing lot sizes and zoning in the town that I was not prepared to support. In fact, I would have been very much against. Some suggestion that we have housing, affordable housing on Dottie Point and on Mitchell Field, which I'm also very much against. I felt that if those things stayed in the plan, I would vote against the plan, and I think I suspect, but I don't know, that a lot of other people would have felt the same. I think the effort that's been made to date has not erased the plan, but it certainly watered down the stronger endorsement that was previously contained in the plan, in the comprehensive plan of the Affordable Housing Working Group plan, with the items in it that I object to. And by watering it down, I've come to the conclusion that I could vote for the comprehensive plan come November 4th. If we're going to backtrack and more strongly endorse it than we have it right now, I will be very uncomfortable and probably would, as I said, I think I would vote against the comprehensive plan on November 4th. I'd like to see it where it is. I think there's plenty of reference to it And in fact, one of the sentences says that it's on the town website, but instead, it's now attached as part of the plan. It's a little bit over strong in my judgment, but I think I could come to vote for the plan the way it is now. That's my piece.
Thank you.
Mr. Enkelis, do you have a strong feeling about this last paragraph that Al read?
I think that puts a stronger endorsement of the plan in there, of the Affordable Housing Working Group plan in there than I would be comfortable with.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, we're kind of parsing words and so on. And again, the bottom line, the main reason for this is to make sure that everybody on the task force, we've heard all the inputs and comments, feels comfortable with the way this is written right now.
Thank you.
And, you know, I'm one vote, but not everybody has to agree, but most of the people here in the task force need to buy into that.
Good evening. I'm coming forth on my own authority here, but Bob Goodrow.
Yep.
Affordable Housing Working Group and Housing Committee. I would say, or reiterate what Courtney said, that we have somewhat erased it. I'm ambivalent that we have gone too far or not far enough. All I can tell you is, we were a select committee from the select board to make recommendations, an equal board to the comp plan. We deserve as much, if not as more than anybody else, because no other department was assigned as a committee to come up with it. So I would tell you that that should tell you that it should be as reinforced as much as possible. I'm not going to stand here and tell you it has to change. I think, honestly, where we're at is probably acceptable. I would prefer to go back to, you know, page,
Original wording?
paragraph, page 15, paragraph 3. I mean, could easily say, Harpswell, Housing for Harpswell recommends the opportunity for expanding and looking at this. All you got to do is, you wordsmith out a ton of stuff. It was a committee that really was met on the fly. It really didn't get public scrutiny, but let's at least acknowledge the Affordable Working Group put together a piece of paper or a report that had meat on it. It's a recommendation. You're not getting in trouble anywhere. So hear me either way. I'm not 50% this way, 50% that way. I just think you do need to come to a conclusion. I don't think I think it got wordsmithed to death, but that's my opinion. Thank you very much for your time.
Hang on, Bob. Would you vote for the plan today the way it is?
I'm not opposed to voting for it. I wasn't opposed to voting for it in March. I mean, and I don't know that we've lost a whole lot, but I think you should give it the credibility the town put on us to do for the goodwill of the community. And I think, as Courtney said, I know meeting after meeting, we talked about Harpswell, the old Harpswell, what new Harpswell is, but it's Harpswell. And do you think that was ad nauseum? Absolutely. But it's a recommendation, guys. You're not getting in trouble. Good luck.
Okay. Any other comments? Yes, ma'am.
I told myself I wasn't going to talk about this anymore because I was away for the public hearing. I had sent in a statement of my concern. I'm off with the affordable housing. However, when we get into the housing section, and I like that paragraph that we put in because it sort of encapsulates it. At the time, we say this is a plan. However, the idea of the plan is with some instructions of what the community thinks we should spend more time on, like water. The community did feel we should spend more time on housing. I'm a little concerned because we take the housing section, we move down to the implementation section, and where, for example, I read to you under the freshwater section, implementation, it gave us stepping stones of what to do, how to move forward as a committee. The thing that concerns me about the housing section, we basically had everything to say about, well, that's land use, I'm sorry. But in the housing section, we basically took out the goal that gave just a little direction to the housing group who will probably work on the implementation. We took that out. And that's different than any other section in the group. So my concern is more, you know, we had a meeting in Cundy's Harbor where everybody was really concerned about housing and thought we had sort of forgotten about it. Then we have a meeting over on the Neck. You have the exact opposite. You know, where I'm at now, I know we are where we are. But I think that I agree with the Housing Committee that we have, for something that was so important to the people in the town, not that we're worrying where we're going to do it now or how we're going to do it, we have sort of shortchanged that piece. And I'm worried that, I know we don't want to be under the state's thumb, but our comprehensive plan is going to have a general tone of what the state would like us to be looking at. Thank you.
Just a comment, the removal of Goal 4, is it Goal 4? Came at the suggestion of the Housing Committee Chair. So we had some endorsement because they thought, well, there's enough in there that will make the intentions of the town clear. There's a problem, we need to look at it, and we need to come up with solutions. What those solutions are, to be determined. So,
You know, I hear what you're saying.
yeah.
And I think I'm talking about the ramifications of what we did, how it's going to go forward. And while some people in town are very much against it, there's a lot of people in town who are worried about housing.
Yeah.
So my only concern is that we at least give it the same level of attention and put some criterias in that we've done with everything else. But I'll stop.
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I think you know who I am. I'm Barbara Inkelis, and I had the good fortune of being able to help do the wordsmithing on August 7th, the day after the last task force meeting. Courtney, Bob, I'm sorry that you feel marginalized or you feel that your report has been marginalized. I agree with Al, obviously, that it's still in there. One of the reasons why we felt we needed to de-emphasize is because the report included a number of issues which have been eliminated, deleted, or softened from the comp plan. Therefore, we're trying to be consistent. Some of those, I think you may remember, we talked about them. The concept of loan forgiveness was in the housing, or whatever you want to call it, the housing report. We took that out. The concept of establishing a loan committee was also in there. We softened that language. Short-term rentals was in there. The limiting of short-term rentals, we took that out. And the land use, we altered that. So that's part of the reason why we didn't want to put the report here, the report there, report there, report there. We've acknowledged it, it exists, it's on the website, you can find it, it's a starting point, and I think that's enough. Questions?
Okay, thank you.
Alan, if I could just,
Sure.
I don't want to belabor this, but I think if you look at page 57, the action highlights are to enhance the local capacity to create affordable or attainable housing, encourage the use of existing homes to create attainable housing, and in fact, we have already done that. We did that when you were chair of the planning board, and we'll continue to refine that and help to make that work. And facilitate the construction of new attainable housing, single-family homes, starter homes, empty nester homes, duplexes, whether side by side or one above the other, townhouses with an emphasis on small and discrete. Those are pretty clear action statements that I think are in keeping with the comprehensive plan, and I don't see anything wrong with them. I know that it must feel kind of like you've had the rug pulled out from under you to have the select board specifically ask you to do this work. And then you did the work, and now another committee is kind of saying, well, maybe we need to soften that a little bit. But we have to get our report passed by the town, not by the select board. We have to get this document through all the voters, not just 3 people who sat on the select board at that time, one of whom is no longer on the board. And the other person that replaced that person doesn't necessarily agree. So we live in a democratic society still, hopefully, and things have to get through the town meeting, and that's our goal. The things in your report, as hard as you worked on it, simply, if you really want it, you really feel strongly about your report, take it to town meeting. That's an option. Or rework the report so that it will pass at town meeting. But that's not really where we are. We have to get the voters to approve this document. Then we can move on from there. But I know you disagree. I'm sorry. I know you put a lot of effort into it, and thank you for doing it. But that's where
But-
we
Any
are.
other comments?
Actually, I would say, you know, we used the housing report to kind of as a base for understanding the housing issues. You know, we had some ideas that were in there, and we took them out. Oh, they're in the implementation part of it, because we found out that there were people in town. I think it was the part about discouraging people from building or turning buildings into like summer rentals. But we took that out because we heard from people in the community who relied on that a great deal. But, you know, truthfully, I think that we did rely on that report. Not that I read it all, cover to cover, but, you know, to get a sense of the housing issues in the town. And even though it's not sometimes noted by name or asterisk, I think your report underlies what we did in large.
Okay, I think we've thrashed this around enough. I'm going to ask the task force, call for a vote to the task force. Do we have to make any additional changes above and beyond what we've done here with respect to?
You want a motion?
I move. Oh, no, yeah, give me a motion.
I move that we leave the comprehensive plan the way it is and we add your water change and leave everything else the way it is. Send it to the voters.
And can we discuss?
Let me have a second first.
Okay.
Second. Okay, discussion.
I'm still not clear about this last paragraph, starting, the town recognizes the need, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Do we need to vote on whether to leave that in or not?
Well, the fundamental issue is, do we have to add anything that we took out?
But you took out this whole paragraph, is that?
No, I didn't take out the whole paragraph.
No, that paragraph is, my understanding is that was a supplement for what we took out.
Yeah,
It's only the stuff that's
excess and crossed out,
redded out?
yeah.
Yeah.
So, okay, so we have a motion, it's been seconded to keep the report the way it's been edited at this specific point in time so that we can move on to a final printing of the draft. I'll call for a vote. Any other discussion? Call for a vote. All in favor? Okay?
I now feel like a politician,
Wow.
All right.
as we were accused of being.
Okay, so
The only one that
here's
was
what's
me.
gonna happen. We're
What's
gonna,
that?
The only one that was
these
technically
changes are
was
gonna
me.
be smoothed out, they're gonna be in a
And you
smooth
didn't
copy
pipe
of
up.
this document. And that's what's gonna go to the voters in November.
I didn't want to wear that
Appreciate
badge.
everybody's
I'm
hard
sorry.
work on this.
I didn't want to
Lot.
wear that badge.
Yeah, right.
And any other comments or discussion, any other issues that we have to?
Thank you
Talk
for
about-
sticking with it now.
Yep. I'm going to meet with Margaret tomorrow on a couple of issues. One is to smooth out the endorsement for the resiliency request for funding, GOPIP funding, and then kind of solidify the changes that we've made and make sure that that's smooth so we can get it to the printer as quickly as we can. I want to thank everybody for attending and your interest, and it's been a long road, but enough said. Enough said. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.